Thank you so much for being here. And I will share my screen so we can follow. Okay, we are here. Let me show you what we are gonna do today. Today will be a fun session because we will connect a subscribe form and make it work. And we are connected um, with Airtable API. So you will have useful data in a in an Airtable, um, and that will make your blog useful. Let me talk a little about what we're gonna see today. The first thing is that we are gonna review the CSS. I put some CSS to make the look and feel of the whole blog a little better. I I have to confess that I exaggerate a little the styles what I did. But the thing is that I will share this code with you and with all the subscribers so they will see some cool effects and things like that that you can do with CSS because I wanted basically show you how to do that. Then we will start preparing everything to make a form work in the project and connect it with Airtable APIs. So the first thing is that we need to set up our .mvi files. And I will explain how to do that. It's super quickly and super easy on Next.js. Then we will create a form and make it work. And then we will connect it with Airtable and we will check for understanding. Hopefully this will take us just 1 hour. Again, thank you so much for being here with me. Um, a little of review of what we did on the first session that was creating these dynamic routers for our blog post. And it's basically telling the API router of Next.js that is now a built-in function of Next.js that they will catch the ID of the blog in this case, or the slug, or whatever variable do you want to put there to convert that in a dynamic router. And how you do that is with the brackets segment. And it's super important to have that. And I will show you this in the code because we are doing already this, but I want to remember that you remember this one because today we will create another route for the subscription. So it's important to keep in mind that you have this ability with Next.js, and it's only managing this syntax of the square brackets that you fix of that dynamic route. Um, Now, I learned this yesterday because I was checking the dynamic router and I saw that Next.js told me it was an error, it was a warning, telling me the params needs to be awaiting. And I was like, why? And then I read the documentation and I realized that in the latest Next.js 15, the params that brings from the URL are a promise. And because they are a promise, they need to be awaited in the async await syntax. So it's basically you have to do this extra line. So now here is our blog post component, and we are bringing the params as a props of the component, and we need to add this extra line to await the parameters first because now they are a promise on Next.js. And I can explain this a little more on the subscribe, but basically I want to show you this because this was something that I learned from the official documentation on Next.js yesterday, which is super cool. We will see how to handle forms, but two more important things that you have to know is that forms are client components because you are asking something for the user. In this case, we will ask the user for their full name and email because it's a subscription. And you can add input validation in that form, like they enter a valid email, that kind of thing. But you can also have validation in the back end, which is in this case, Next.js allow you to do that in the same project, which is the important thing for Next.js. And in the back, you can check that when the information is sent to Airtable, it sent it correctly. It returns a okay message. It do something with that information. And now you don't need to create the backend express for this. You handle that here in the whole route, which is amazing. And because it's not only that the form works, it's also that you can do something with that information. So for this time, we're gonna connect this form with that Airtable API. And that is a server component, and that is the place that you will do this validation of the server. But it's super easy with the router.js syntax that I will show you in the code. So this is the moment to see the code. Let me stop sharing the screen. So I will open my code that I have it here. So this is my text block project. I have here the files that we created in the last session, the like button, and I did a little of CSS and I want to show you that. So as a reminder to all of you, how you start your project, because you have in a package JSON, these scripts of what you want to do. You just need to do npm rob dep, and that will start your local host. So now if we go to the local host 300, you will see your index. And this is the CSS that I tell you that I did. And the reason I tell you that I exaggerate a little is because, for example, I did these animations for the buttons. They are a little over the top. Like you don't see this kind of buttons in the wild of the web because it looks like I don't know, too much for a button. But I wanted to show you how to do all these things in the CSS. So all these styles for the buttons, I'm putting it here on your global CSS. And because CSS is honestly a programming language, you have, for example, variables, and that is easy to move if you want to change the variables. And in that, I have all the styles of the buttons. Let me is over here. You see how I manage here the styles for the hover of the buttons of the links, basically. Uh, we change of the colors and transformations and the box shadow that you see. I'm handling all these styles with variables because CSS is a programming language. You can use variables to handle that kind of thing. So this was the things that I want to show you about CSS. For example, we have a like component. So if you click one of the posts, you will see the likes and you can move the likes. And for those styles, I managing that in the model for the bottom. Uh, because I wanted to show you how to handle specific CSS styles for things that you want to be different. So for example, this box shadow is very different to the box shadow of the navbar buttons. Um, and you can handle those different styles in different models. But let's focus on the things that we're gonna do today. So today, basically, we're gonna make this subscribe button work. At the moment, because I put the link here on the navbar, and then I will show you in the code in 1 minute where is this link. The Next.js project recognized the URL, the root of that, but I don't have a subscribe page at this moment. So it gave me a 404 error. And it's basically the same project telling me, I have no idea what to show you at this moment. So let's start working on how to make this work. So first, let me show you where is this link coming. So this link is only because here in my navbar component, I say so. I create this link that say, let's connect to this link to subscribe. And Next.js, because link is a built-in component of Next.js, you are importing this thing, link tells you, okay, let's do it. Let's create this router. But I don't have anything to show here. So it's telling me like the router exists, but I don't know what to show you here. So what we're gonna do first is telling Next.js, let's create something there. And we know how to create routers here. We did it with host for a page, an ID. This is our dynamic router for each one of the individual posts that we are running. So it's pretty much the same. Inside the app, we are creating a folder that is called subscribe. Subscribe. Because that is my route. And inside this subscribe, we are creating a new file that is called page. That's how we create something that work immediately. So now if I create a basic component here, let's do this one. Exactly like that. Let's put here subscribe to my newsletter. You know, don't do that, all of that. I just want to have this one. Very basic. I will just see a div. I'm not showing anything, any real information, because what I will have to have here is to have a form, but that's a little more complicated. So this one will make the router already work because I'm following the syntax of a folder with a page file will give me a route. So now if I go to my project and let's go to home and check the subscribe. Did I call this correctly? Oh no, I have an error here. You see, that's my. You have to have the same is subscribe. Sorry about that. An extra, and now will work. There it is. Subscribe to my subs layer. Because you need to match the router that we sell and we tell Next.js. And again, the router is here in the navbar. Is because I say here in the navbar, I want to have this router. So my error was I was putting an extra S here in the name of the folder, and that gave me the error. But This is how you create routers in Next.js, which is very straightforward. You don't need to do any extra thing. Now that you have this one, the thing that you want to really do is to have a form here. So in the page, you want to have a component here that is called, let's call it subscribe form. And to have a component here that is called a subscribe form, what you really want to do is important. Yeah, it's how. But if you are importing a subscribe form, and immediately as you do this one, Next.js will tell you, because my server is running, tell you this thing doesn't exist. So you need to create it. So let's go to components. I create a subscribe form because it is a component that I don't know if I will use in other part of the, it's just a component. I will create it here. So this is just a file that it needs to call subscribe form. And with this one, as soon as I create the file, I haven't created anything yet, but as soon as I create the file, at least it's telling me, okay, you now have a component, but you need to have something in the component. So let's do that. Let's create a basic form. How you do that? Because it's a form and I will ask something of the user, you need to use client. That's the first rule for forms. Anything that you will ask something for the user, you need to create a client component. And how you create a client component, you basically use client. That's the beginning. And now you need to use something to handle the information that the user is giving you. And that in React, this is not Next.js, this is just React. That in React is the state. So you need to import the state. So how you do that? You do import use state from React. Now, because I'm importing use state, I need to use it. So let's create the component. And I will have an email. So I want to have an email. Now let's actually, I want to have the full name. So I will have a name, an email, an error, and a message. Yeah, for now, let's start that. So how you handle a state, and this is React syntax, this is not Next.js syntax, is that you create a state with the name of your state, the name of the function that will handle the state, and you use the hook use state, and in the parentheses of the function, a hook is a function, you bring the initial state of that variable. So in this case, because I don't know the name of the user, my initial state will be name, will be an empty string. I have no idea what the user will give me. The same for email, because I'm expecting that the user types something, but I don't have any initial variable. I will put an empty. I want to show the user an error if they do something that is wrong, and that initial state, because the user haven't done anything wrong at the moment, could be null. And the same with the success message. At the beginning will be false because it's not just yet a success. So far with me. Now, let's do first the form, and then I will show you how to handle the submit and what you need to do. So the form will go on the return of that component. So if you do a return, it will show you a form, a basic form. Now, this is important, and Copilot will tell you, the onSubmit should be always on the form. It cannot go in the label or in the bottom or anything, because the bottom will be inside the form, and you want to have the bigger HTML tag handling the onSubmit. Otherwise, you could have data that is not correctly handled. So the form will have the onSubmit. I will create the first label for, let's put it full name, because I'm expecting that the user give me a full name. I'm not creating one for the first name, last name, that kind of thing. And then I create the input. Now the input is important because here I will determine what type is the input. So this could be changed to email, it could be changed to number, it could be changed to phone number. It have all kinds of validations, but for name, the standard is using text. I need to create an ID for this one because I want to control what is happening there. So the ID will be, I want to create a value, and the value should have the same name of your state. The value is the thing that you will control, because it will catch the thing that the user will type. So this name should be the same of your state that is controlling this input. And basically, when we creating an input, we have to have a function that is called onChange. And it's basically that it start tracking that input as soon as the user start typing something. So onChange will handle basically that anything that the user type, and this is the target, the event target value. So this is how you handle a singular input on a form. Now I need to have two, and you can have more validation here. For example, I need to say, I could say that this is required. So the form itself will tell the user, you have to give me something. And I could have a placeholder to guide the user and tell what I wanted for them. And yes, enter your full name. Could be a nice placeholder. Okay, so this is all the things that we need to control for a singular input. And I need to do basically the same for the email. Now, these labels are for accessibility reasons, and they are super important when you are creating forms. Don't skip the labels. And it's basically, this will tell the HTML itself and web readers that this is a label, and the name is for the name and all of that. So let's do the same for the email. It's very basic. Our form will be very basic. So far, we haven't done any style, so this will look very different to the rest of the blog, but it's important. And basically, we are going to tell them the type is an email. The same onChange validation is also required, and we have a placeholder. Pretty much the same attributes of the form. And now we are going to have a button, and the button will tell subscribe. And what I wanted is that it subscribe. Now, if I save this component, I can see the form very quickly, but it will not do anything. Well, let me comment this while I want that you see the form, even if it's not doing something. You see it here. You have the form. We don't have a style, so it's looking awful, but it is a form. uh, and you can enter the name, and this is a button that because I say that it's required, the form itself will tell me that you have to have this, um, and the subscribe allow me to click. This is a basic form, no styles at all, and it's not doing anything just yet. So let's make it that form work. Um, the first thing that you need to do is that you need to have the on submit. Um, so on submit, we are gonna handle the submit. And if you handle the submit, you need to create that function. So let's create that function. And for now, we are not doing anything. We are just preventing the default of, so it's a function that will take an event as the parameter. And why we need the event to prevent the default? Because the default of the form is sending that information to a server, and we don't have that just yet. So it's not, we need to prevent the default. And we are using the functions that we have here to change, is the place where we are gonna use the function of the state to change that state. So we will check if it have an error or if everything is good. If I do this right now, it's not doing anything and it looks awful, but kind of stop all the errors of Next.js just with having this. But let's make it work. So we are gonna what we really want to do is to catch the name and and the the name and the email of the user to at least having that to send it to Airtable. But let's go back the first. Let's make sure that we are catching the name and the email of the user. So basically, we start saying if there is no email or email, because we want to, in computer science and web development, there is something that is called fail fast. And it's basically checking that if we don't have a name or an email from the form, the error that we will say is, please fill all the files. This is a little redundant, I know, because the form itself is telling the user these fields, these inputs are required, and it will not allow the user um, to click the submit without sending anything. But in computer science and in web development especially, you have to have, you need to be redundant on the catching the errors of the user, because you don't know what the user could do, and you don't know if they will handle the form in some um, device that allow them to check the escape the form validations. In general, when you are doing something with the user, it's better to have a redundancy on catching errors. So we're doing that. And then we are, this is how we will do it. But at the beginning, I just want to console log. I want to see what the user is giving me. That's the only thing that I want to do. And if they give me everything, then I will do that the success is true, because now it's true. And if there is an error, I will change the error to there is an error. Now a good catch here after the try and catch block of code when you are handling forms is setting all your variables again to the initial state so you will clean the form. So it's always a good idea to set name to empty string again, set email to empty strings again. Again, this is only to clear the form fields. It's exactly how you do it. So now the user will type something, will give me a name and email, and as soon as it clicks submit, it does everything inside the handle submit function. At the end, will clear the form field, and that's how you do it. Now, I don't want to do anything else just yet. I just want to see if I'm having an error, what kind of error. And if I having the name and the email of the user, I just want to see it console log. It's the only thing that I want to have the form. So restart here. Where do you see the console log? You go to inspect element, and here is your console. So let's do Nina, my email, and let's see if I click subscribe. Look at that, I'm having the data. So yay, my form is working correctly. I'm not doing anything with the data just yet, but it's working. And at least I know that I'm grabbing the data of the user correctly. Okay, now what we really want to do with the data that the user is giving me. Well, I want to send it to Airtable, right? I want to put this in Airtable. So with that, I need to do a couple of steps. The first one is that I need to create an API router that will basically handle, because this is client component. This is in the front end. I want to send this to a server component, which is in this case, because I'm handling an API, so it's an API router, to basically say, send this information to Airtable. So for now, how you do that? Well, it is also a very nice Next.js syntax that is super easy, and it's also a convention, but basically it's inside your app, you are creating a folder that has to be called API. So now you are creating API folder. Did I create a folder? No, this is not a folder. Let me delete this. So your app, you create a folder. It's called API. And inside the folder, you want to create the router that has to have that line. And how you do that, you just create a new folder with the name. So subscribe. And in this folder, you are gonna create a file that has to be named router. So here inside subscriber, I will have a file that is called router. Let me create this router, route.js. And that's it. You basically create a backend for that form, which is amazing because now you don't have to have the Express server or anything to handle your API endpoints. You handle your API endpoints on routers inside the same Next.js project, which is amazing. So this is basically also, this will be also basically a function in JavaScript. It's not even a component because I don't need to show the user something. I will send this information directly to Airtable. So is basically a function. Now, yeah, in this initial state, I haven't connected Airtable just yet. I just want to receive something, receive the name and the email that come from the request. And the request is a function that is the parameters, is the props that is getting this function. And I just want to see it. Um, think I don't even need to return. I just really want to see it. Um, oh well, I need to return because I need to tell the server something. Um, so okay. Um, in order to close the connection with the server, I need to tell them something. So I will simulate that thing. Okay, but how to tell you everything that you need to do? How I send from my form, how I send information to this API? Well, it's a fetch request now as a post request, but it's basically as a fetch. It's the same thing that we did uh, connecting the API, because now I don't need to have a server, and Next.js allow me to do everything inside the same project. I could go to the subscribe form, and instead of here telling console log inside the try and catch block of code, instead of doing this console log, I will not change it. I can do just um, an await function. And then the thing is that now this function, the handle submit, has to be async because I'm doing an await here. So this also implying that I will change the async to this function. This is an anonymous function, and it now has to be async in order to I can await the fetch. And the thing now is that I'm doing a post because I'm sending information to from a form. It means that I'm changing something, and in the next step, I will put that in our Airtable. So that is not a GET request. That's the difference between what we did with the placeholder, the JSON placeholder that is populating our blocks. This is not just getting information. This is actually doing new information. So it's a post request. So the syntax for a post request is this one. You have to have a method. Basically, you have to have a object. JavaScript object is curly braces, and they have a method that is post, and they have let me see this, sorry, is that I saw for a minute that we have people in the breakout room, but never mind. You have a method that is the post. You have to have these headers that is basically telling the server what are you sending, and in this case, the standard is just saying it's just content, it's nothing, and you need to send that as a JSON. And this is how you do this. Now, in theory, this will work. Um, so let's console log this. Let's comment this console log because I want to see the console log from my API. So I want to see the console log here in this subscription request. I don't want to see it from the form itself. So now, in theory, this will work. Let's go to the project. Let's refresh. The form, let's do Christina. Let's do test. And if I go to subscribe, I have another, and it's not showing me here. Oh, yeah, it's this. I'm not having error. It's showing me here in the console because it's the backend, because I'm doing this a post request, that I'm grabbing my name and my email correctly. And it actually showed me that I have the status 200. So this will close the connection with the server. So it's not error, it's working. That's how it works. Now I don't want to console log the subscription. I want to send this to Airtable. But this is where things will have to have different, a couple of steps that are just configuration and setup. So the first one is that when you are doing API connections and API requests, you probably will have something that is called API keys and tokens and a bunch of stuff. And that information should be always private. You don't want to share those information with anyone. And for that, the convention is that you put that information in a file that is called your MB file. The MB file should have, so let's create a new terminal. And here on the base of your project, where you have your package JSON, you create your MB file. Now for Next.js, very particular, usually MB files are .env, and that's how you create. But for the syntax for Next.js is actually .env.local. And this will tell Next.js, this is your MB file and it will be private. So if you create this file, now you see it here, and you will see that is ignore for git ignore, because git ignore always know that you have to ignore everything that is MB file. Basically, if you want to be super safe, you can do MB local here. So just to have this redundancy that it will not read anything, because here you want to put the API tokens. So there is actually two different things that you can do with AMB files. Sometimes, so the first one is that you want to have your APIs. So in this table here is where we are gonna put Airtable API token. And this is the syntax, exactly. This is the syntax that they will give you. We will see how to have something that is called Airtable base ID, the table name. Now, sometimes you need to have something that will go public on your file. How you do that? Well, if you do next public, then this will be, please never do this thing that put your token as public, but usually something like site URL could be public. So I just want to show you, we will not use this for the Airtable connection, but I just want to show you that if for some reason inside your project, there is something that needs to be public, but it needs to be on your MB file too, for configuration reasons, you use the syntax next public. The rest of the thing, this will tell next, okay, this one you can show. And if we can do a console log of this one, it will tell, let's do it. But all of these ones are private, and these tell Next.js, these variables are private. So this is how you create your RMB files for the setup with APIs. Now, the next thing is that you need to have an Airtable API token and all of that things that we are saying that we are gonna do. So let's go to Airtable. This has an amazing free tier here, and that's the reason I'm doing this here. The first thing that you want to create is a new workspace. So you will see here that I have already this for the cohort, this as tests, things like that. But let's create one, and the option is build an app with your own. Um, no, I want to create a workspace. So let's click here and let's call it log subscription. And once you have this one, and again, everything that Airtable have an amazing free tier. So once you have here a workspace, you want to create a workspace to connect. And this is basically it tells you how to create a base on Airtable. So your base, let's call this newsletter. And in newsletter, I will have a table that is, let's call this table subs because our subscriber. Now, what I really want to have in subscriber, I just want an email. So let's delete all these fields that they gave me as the default because I will not using any of these ones. I'm not asking for attachment or anything. If you have time, check the Airtable documentation. I will show you where is the table documentation because they have an amazing service. So you do email and let's do a created datetime that will auto-populate. And let's display time zone because I'm waiting for that it will tell at what time and it's auto-populate so you don't have to concern yourself with catching this from there. Now that you have this, how you have your tokens and all of that. So the first thing is going to something that is the builder hub of Airtable. So the URL for that is Airtable create. Exactly. It will show you the builder hub from developers on Airtable. And here you need to create an access token. So you need to create the token. Let's put it log because it will be a subscription. You want to add a scope, and it's basically that I want to read documents, I want to write documents because I will put new things, and I want to read the schema. And then you connect a base, and I have this block subscription base. So this is where I put here that the accent token will have a permission to read all the bases and workspace on block subscription. That if you check is the workflow of where I have this newsletter and all of that. So with that, you create this token and you have to catch this string because you will not see it again. So copy all of this. And this is the thing that you will put here as your API token. Ta-da! Now you have one of the table name. I call my table, and I call my table subs. Yeah. So here on my table name, I will put that one, subs. And now where is the ID? Well, it's a little hide here, but basically, if you go to help, you can uh, check here. Let me give you the URL because it's basically their table documentation. So if you go to support Airtable docs, the Airtable documentation, and we will send all these URLs, so don't worry too much. You will see the way the API reference, and here you will see all your workflows. So here I want to have the IDs for this one is my newsletter on. Could I tell you from what workspace I call mine blog subscription, and what base are you handling? So this is your workspace, this is your base. And in newsletter, you have the ID of that base. And that's the thing that we are going to have to grab and put it on our variables. And for the people that is watching this video, I will delete all of this. So this will not be able to do this. Please don't catch my IDs on tokens. But well, okay. So now I have all my secrets working. Well, at least I have all my secrets. They are not working just yet because I'm not connecting anything just yet. So where I will handle these things? Well, this will go on my API request because this is the API request that will send the information of the farm. We need to do one more thing, and is we'll need to install in the project the Airtable API connection. Airtable have an amazing documentation, and they have whole package that handle connections with their API on Next.js. So because we already import that whole table, we can do import, let's import all of our table from our table. And the thing that we want to do is create first, the first thing that you need to do is create the base connection. So yeah, it's pretty much this one. But it's not API key, it's API token. And then you create your base with the base ID and your table with the table name. Again, we are doing this outside or post request function. And again, this is just a JavaScript function. This is not a Next.js connection, but it's the amazing thing. Next.js connection allowed us to work with async functions inside the same project just because I'm creating an API route, which is amazing. And this used to be so different on React, and we create app React, to have an Express server and a bunch of stuff that now you don't need to do. Okay, now in theory we have a connection, so we don't need just yet anything else, but we need to change a little of what we're doing inside this because now don't want to just console log the thing. So first, let's do again the fail fast. So let's do a quick validation. And it's basically if there is no name, um, let's 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 do, but let's not do a new response. I think I can do return response dot JSON exactly. With an error and a status, and that's it. It's basically I'm creating a response, which is basically this object in JavaScript. Um, and because this is a function, I want to have that as a return is failing valid, failing fast, and it basically gives me the required files and the status. Now, if I'm not failing fast, I want to create the new records in, and how you do that, you follow this syntax. Now you want to create a new record, but this is actually um, let's do new record because it's something that I want to create. I'm bringing from the server. This have to be a wait. And in the table, I want to create, in the table, that is something that we are bringing here for the base. I want to create the email with the name and the email with the, and that's it. I don't want to do anything else. Now, if everything goes well, let's do a console log here that shows that new record that is creating correctly. Check, because I need to put this, actually, this in a try catch block of, or all of that should be in a try, exactly, because I'm dealing with promises, and it's basically a good syntax idea. If you are dealing with promises, everything that you are doing should be inside the try. So we are gonna move all of this to inside the try, and that will allow us to catch the error inside the catch. So it's a good behavior to move everything inside the try. And then I have an opportunity of catch the error with just an error. And that also allowed me to have a status for, if everything goes well, the status will be 200. If I have some kind of error in the connection, I will have 500. And if everything goes well, if I have an error for the user, it means it didn't give me all the fields, I will have a 400 error. This is also good practice when you are doing requests to the server. Now here is a tip that is super important. When you are dealing with connections that are invoking something to an MB file, you need to restart your server. Don't forget that, or you will have these weird errors in the server, status 500, and you will not, like, but everything is there. It's because every single time that you are doing something new with that MB file, you have to restart the server. So at this moment, if I will create a new variable, I will restart the server. Otherwise, it will not catch this new variable. Okay, so I haven't subscribed the route. And I'm just creating this new email and trying to catch as many errors or the new record. And the form doesn't need to change anything because I already sending this as the body to the email, and that's the thing that I want to do it. So either way, I'm not doing anything different in the form, which is the cool thing. You already have this. So let's do this. Let's go home because I restart the server. Let's do go home from the beginning. Let's do to subscribe. And here, enter. Let's do Chris. Let's do Christina and test and subscribe. And in theory, it works. Let me see the it created and it's giving me the whole response. And this is something cool to see what is a response, the complete response that Airtable give you when you create a new record. So it will give you this object that this JSON that is a record code and have all these things that have the ID, but I have no ID, so I have null, the table name that is subs, a bunch of things that I could do with that subs. Like I can find, select, create, all the things that our table will do, which is amazing. It's a huge API. And the fields that I create, that name, I did email and create it. So now if I go to my Airtable, I will see my name and Christina. And that's the connection that I wanted. So it's super easy to connect now a front end and a back end in a form because you can do everything in the same project and you don't need to have a backend server on Express. You just need to have three things: an MB file with all the secrets, a form that handle the validations of the front end and is sending a fetch with a post request, and an API route that handle that request as a JavaScript function. This is not a component. It's basically just a function that will handle that request. And because I have that request, I'm connecting where a table, I'm just creating the new field and it works. Yay! And I think it's a great space to stop this session. Um, Again, if you are watching this video, I will delete all these tokens. So you need to create your own tokens. Please don't work with mine. And a good homework, if you feel that you can handle that, is add some styles to your form. So here, let me tell you what I will do. I will create a module for the form. So here in component, I will create a subscribe subscribe form dot form dot model dot css file, and I will put some styles here. And if you feel adventurous, you can create some styles for the form here because it definitely doesn't look like anything. I mean, it's working and it's really working, but it doesn't have any style. And maybe you can show something to the user. And let me show you very quickly how you can do that. Because here in your form, you have this response that we are not using. You see how it's not. So here in the JavaScript, inside the return, I can do something like if um, if there is no response, do something. Um, Otherwise, so this is if there is an error. What happens if there is no error? Um, well, then I will have a success and I can show something to the to the user. And I think actually this will work because we are changing the success to true when the user. So let me create another one very quickly. So let me show you. Yeah, response is not okay. So actually, in the code, what I want to do is it's not handling the response that way because it's inside this function, the handle submit. So it actually doesn't know what is the response, but I can handle with error. So just do error. So if there is an error, I will show the error. If there is a success, I will show the success. And with that, it's working again. Let's subscribe. Let's do testing just to have this 5 with Gmail. And if I do subscribe, this will work. It will send the connection with testing, and it will show thank you for subscribing. That's that's how it works. Which is amazing. Again, this will need the styles. But all the styles that you need to change are here in the form. Because here are your error and success message. So that will be your homework. And that's it. That's how we would deal with data, real data, and the connections with real data. Now you have an Airtable with real data, and now you can use these emails for sending something to the user. In the next session, we are gonna know how to use Auth0 to actually send the connection because I want that the user identify in order to show it how to subscribe. And that's also a good thing to have in a project. Handle it Auth0. It's very new. There is a bunch of ways that you can connect your Auth0 with your Next.js project, but it's always something that is nice to have to show to recruiters and clients and all of that. And I will show you how to deploy this thing to Vercel, which is super easy. And then in the last session, I will answer questions. I will check for understanding. Let me see the things to understand is how to use CSS, and you will see all the CSS code in the links that I will send it. How to use dynamic routers and how to use them, how to set up the MB files inside Next.js, and how to work with form on the client components and on server components, which are actually just JavaScript functions. So I hope that you have enjoyed this session. Thank you so much for being here. I know that Saturdays are complicated, but yeah, see you next Saturday. Thank you so much for being here. Let me stop sharing.